It's time to unbox and play in a brand new pair of signature basketball sneakers. Today we got the Adidas Dame 9s in hand, and I'm ready to check these things out, see how they play, because I know that I love how they look. But let's see them in person for the first time. All right, so first of all, we've got this sleek black and white box with the Adidas 3 stripes that go all the way around. Let's waste no time in opening this thing up. We got Dame time on the inside. Overall, like I said, here's a kind of a full look at the box. And inside, we've got this purple launch colorway. I think it's the Purple Burst colorway of the Adidas Dame 9s. Now, there was a couple of Bape colorways that dropped of these. I didn't go for those because, to be honest with you, I think that this is actually a better colorway. Before we get into playing in these things, let's look over a couple of things about these. So they come with these little cardboard inserts, which doesn't mean much, but I guess they're just supposed to help keep the shape while they're in the box. On the bottom here, we've got this kind of like lightning bolt traction pattern. It's almost like a herringbone, but not really. And overall, what I'm noticing and what I saw from the pictures is that they're kind of a flat shoe. What I really like about the shoe are these colors. I actually didn't know how they would look just based on the pictures, because Adidas likes to really saturate their photos in a lot of their Instagram posts and whatnot, but it's a much more like chill purple. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's still a very bright shoe. Like, you've got this really bright orange here, and I like that because the purple is more soft on the eyes, this like super neon orange pops even more, and orange is my favorite color, so you know, that's just kind of an added bonus for me. And I'm also really curious about this light strike. It's like really plush to the touch at least, and I don't know, like it feels better than your typical light strike. I'm gonna go ahead and throw these on, waste no more time, and we're gonna get into the performance review of this thing. So I'll catch you guys right after I've been to the court. See you in a moment. And welcome to the review portion of this video. We're finally going to be talking about how these things played. I've been wearing them for the past couple of days, and I got some good footage one of the days that I was wearing these. And basically, if you've never seen one of my performance reviews before, I have a scoring system that I'm going to put up on the screen right here. If you've seen one of my videos in the past, you'll know that one of the things changed, and I actually gave the fit 10 points instead of 5, which it previously was, and then took 5 points away from the materials and quality to even it out and still make it worth 100 points in total. The reason I did that is because somebody in my comments was talking about how fit should be more important, and I'll put his comment up here. And I agree. Also, before I get into the details on these, be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. If you're new here, that would mean a ton. If you're returning, thanks for being here. I really only started leaning into this channel back in April, and it has blown up a ton since then, so I appreciate all of you who have been joining me, and because of that, I'm gonna be doing a giveaway just to give back to you all. Basically, when I hit 10,000 subscribers, I'm gonna be giving away a free pair of sneakers to one of you all, but you have to be one of the first 10,000 subscribers to win. So if you wanna get there a little bit quicker, if you wanna help out, share this video around, tell your friends to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, like I said, you should subscribe. And this is actually the first time I've announced this, but the pair of sneakers I'm gonna be giving away is a pair of AE1 lows, not this exact pair, this is my pair, a brand new pair, and it's gonna be in your size. Be sure to subscribe because you'll have a chance of winning that. And let's get right into this with the aesthetics. Now, this is kind of an unnecessary category, but one of my favorites, because you know what they say, if you look good, you'll play good, and I'm really feeling the aesthetics on these things. As I said in my initial unboxing, I think the colorway is so sick. I love the colors in these, and I just overall really like this silhouette. I think it's an upgrade from a lot of the previous Dame models, and so I'm going to be giving these things an 11 out of 15. One of my favorite details is the light strike that goes into orange here, and it honestly, this whole section down here reminds me, and this is a little bit of a random comparison, but it reminds me of the Nike Zoom X Invincibles, and the reason is, it's because this little area right here, it almost looks like it's caged by rubber, but this is all actually just foam, and the Dame 9s do the same thing, where it almost looks like it would be caged by rubber, but at least on the medial side here, it's just caged by light strike and kind of just there for aesthetic purposes. Now we're moving into the support category. Now I'm gonna be giving the support on these a 9 out of 15. It's a pretty good support setup. I didn't have any troubles with turning my ankles or anything like that. The reason I'm giving it a 9 out of 15 and not higher is because shoes like the AE1s or the Dawn Issue 6s have like just extremely nice support. I never really had to worry about turning my ankles ankles in those shoes, and these slightly less. Like when you put them on and you turn your ankle to like make it turn on purpose, you can kind of feel how it's more able to rotate over, whereas with like the Ants or the AE ones, these things just don't want to turn. And so because of that, I'm giving it a 9 out of 15. It's still really solid overall. Didn't really experience any trouble. And now we're moving on to the most important category in my videos. This is worth 20 points, and it is traction. Now the traction on these was pretty decent. One thing that I was a little bit bummed out by is that I had to wipe the dust off of these quite a few times. And the reason I was bummed about that is because, again, comparing it to like the AE ones or the Dame Issue 6s, these shoes just did not pick up dust. Whatever Adidas has been doing with their rubber compounds, at least in those shoes, and from what I've heard, the Harden Volume 8s, which I still need to try, they're very good about not picking up dust. However, these kind of had that problem that previous Adidas shoes have, where they picked up a lot of dust. Other than that, the traction was pretty good, and while I was playing on a fairly dusty court, when I did wipe the bottoms of these, they were pretty good to go for at least a few hard stops. So I'm gonna be giving the traction on these a 14 out of 20, and because I was complaining about it, you might be thinking that sounds a little bit high, but that really is just because overall these things perform better than a lot of other Adidas shoes, like the Dame Issue 3s or the Dame Issue 2s. Like those had a serious problem with picking up dust and just never really getting a hard bite on dusty courts, and I wore these on a dusty court, and even though they picked up dust, like I said, simple wipe and they were good to go for a little while, which is an improvement over a lot of Adidas shoes. And now we're moving on to the cushion. The cushion on this is full length light strike. I don't think it's using anything else, just the traditional light strike foam in this. However, this is like the best light strike setup that I have seen in like any Adidas shoe, to be honest with you. The Dame Issue 6s have pretty good light strike. It's got the combination light strike and light strike pro. And what's so weird about Adidas and their light strike foam is it feels like no two light strike shoes are the same. For example, the Dame Issue 3s feature full length, just traditional light strike, but it's just kind of not the best. Like it wasn't bad and it was still cushy, but it didn't feel very responsive. And the light strike used in these is like not only incredibly plush underfoot, like there's just this big slab, but it also feels like pretty responsive. Like I felt really good, pretty bouncy in these shoes. And overall, the light strike formula in these is just phenomenal. So I have to give these a perfect 15 out of 15 for cushion, which I know there's probably better cushions out there. If you've tried these, maybe you don't think it's a 15 out of 15. But in terms of like the cushion that I've been playing in recently, like with the AE ones, with the Dame Issue 6s, these are better than the cushion in both of these shoes, in my opinion. Even the AE1 mids, I think the light strike in these beats out the Jet Boost in the AE1 mids. I don't know why, but I really loved the plushness of these. And like I said, they felt like cushy, but they also didn't feel like they just absorbed everything. I still felt like bouncy, and I felt like there was a lot of rebound in them. That might be like the star feature on this entire shoe. In fact, it is. I think this is the best thing about these shoes, is that the light strike is just so nice in these. And I wish that light strike was like this for every Adidas shoe, because I think that most people would have a much better opinion of light strike overall if it was. Now we're moving on to the fit, and like I said, the fit is now worth 10 points, and I really like the fit in these. I've been going with a size 10 in like all of my Adidas hoop shoes. I usually go with a 10.5, but with all the recent releases, I found that going down a half size works best for me because I'm not much of a wide footer, and so I like to have like less space where my toes are. However, I did find that these are a little bit narrow. I'm not like the best person to ask because, like I said, I don't have a wide foot, so that stuff doesn't like bother me as much, but I will say that these felt a little more narrow than something like the Dame Issue 6s, so wide footers, kind of beware of that. However, lengthwise, they fit me really well with a size 10. I feel like they have like the same kind of toe room as like the Dame Issue 6s have, where they fit pretty well and true to size. So while I am a 10.5, going a size 10 felt pretty good in this. And so yeah, I'm gonna be giving these an 8 out of 10 for the fit, because another thing to note is that heel slippage really wasn't a problem for me. What's interesting is this tongue. It's actually like, at first from pictures, I thought it had a tongue. It's actually not a tongue. It's actually just like this full inner lining that they have here. And it conforms to your foot pretty nicely, and it also helps prevent heel slippage, at least in my experience. And while some people might have heel slippage, I would say this to those people: definitely be sure that you're using the top eyelet. A lot of people had heel slippage in the AE1 lows, and I'm pretty convinced that that's because people weren't using the top eyelet. In these shoes, it's kind of hard to tell, and to be honest, I missed it when I first started playing in these, because the eyelets are so hidden. But, and I'll get some B-roll of this, be sure that you use this extra eyelet. They won't come pre-laced through it, but as long as you use that, the lockdown is gonna be so much better than it otherwise is. And that inner lining didn't bother me at all. It's not like a full two-piece because it is attached pretty close here, but some people don't really like that when the tongue is like fully around your foot and not just like a free floating tongue. But I think it works pretty well in these, and I didn't have any complaints about it. It was honestly really comfortable. And yeah, these shoes are just very comfortable. If you want to wear these shoes casually, by the way, I think that's totally acceptable because they're super, super comfortable as just like an everyday walking shoe. Also, another thing about this shoe, and maybe this doesn't belong in the fit category, but it is something to note, it is kind of a flat shoe, which I talked about at the very beginning of the video, but it wasn't much of a problem to me. They actually have more curvature than I thought in like the toe box of the shoe, and they also have great flex because the materials, which we're about to get into, kind of allow for that. They aren't as flexible as other shoes, but I still think they have like a decent amount of flex. And overall, like I said, it didn't feel like they were super flat on the bottoms. There's still a pretty decent heel to toe transition. And now for the materials and the quality of these things, I really like the materials used in this shoe. They're not the most conventional because this like synthetic leather is a little bit clunky, I guess. Maybe that's not the right word for it, but it is kind of unnecessary. And my foot didn't feel like it was overheating in these shoes or anything, despite this like leather material that doesn't allow for that much breathability. But yeah, the materials are solid and the quality is really good on these. Like this synthetic leather, I mean, sure, it's cheap, but it doesn't feel like super crappy. And same thing with the rest of the shoe. Overall, the materials are pretty nice. There's like no glue stains on the shoe either. Maybe that's just my pair, but I really didn't notice like any glue stains or anything. And so I'm gonna be giving the materials and quality an 8 out of 10. Really nothing to complain about besides the fact that maybe the synthetic leather is like not the most ideal. Now let's get into the weight. When I first saw pictures of these, they looked like they were gonna be a really heavy shoe. Dame shoes are honestly typically pretty heavy. Most of that's probably because they use bounce foam. But it has like this rubber out here on the lateral side, and it features this synthetic leather, and those are kind of notoriously two things that add weight to a shoe. However, I was pleasantly surprised when I gave these away, and they came out to 15.24 ounces, which is not like the lightest shoe in the world, but it's pretty solid. And if you want that in pounds, that is 0.952 pounds. But yeah, most people go by ounces. For comparison, that is about a half an ounce or a little more than that lighter than the AE1s, which are 16.26 ounces, at least the AE1 lows. And then the Don Issue 6s sit at 14.43 ounces. So the Don Issue 6s definitely have the best for weight, and I've discussed that before. The weight on the Don Issue 6s is great, super lightweight and comfortable shoe. However, these are not bad at all. The weight on these is not noticeable when you're playing as well. Like it feels pretty well distributed, which I've talked about before. Shoes sometimes can be super bottom heavy. These were not bottom heavy at all. I'm giving the weight on these a 4 out of 5. Now we got the durability on these, and what I'll say about the durability is just basically don't wear these for outdoor use. That's honestly been the case with like all of the recent Adidas shoes. I don't think that any of them are the best for outdoor use. These grooves are pretty pliable just with my finger, and not only that, but this giant like exposed chunk of light strike I think will definitely take some damage if you wear these outsides. For indoor use, it's just like any other shoe where it's gonna be fine for a very long time. But for outdoor use, the durability on these is definitely not gonna stand out to you. I think that the traction pattern will wear away quickly, and you'll probably get some nicks in this light strike if you're like going hard. But overall, the durability is pretty standard for indoor use, so I'm gonna be giving it a 3 out of 5. But those 2 points coming off are definitely just because these are not gonna be built for outdoor use. And now we've got the price. The price on these is really solid. The retail price is $120, and I'm assuming that just like the Don Issue 6s, because these have in the past, these are gonna drop when they have sales and everything, because the Dame line doesn't really sell crazy or anything. The main lines that do that are like the AEs right now and the Hardens. Those don't go on sale as much, but I think that these will drop. But even the price at retail being $120 is really good. So I'm gonna be giving the price a 4 out of 5. So yeah, all of this leads up to a final score of 76 out of 100, which is really solid. What's crazy is like all of the shoes I've reviewed on my channel so far have not reached below 80. I'm pretty sure everything has scored over 80. I could be wrong, but just from my memory, it's been that way. However, these scoring in the 70s is not a knock on these at all. I actually really just haven't reviewed any bad shoes on my channel yet because it's still a young channel and I haven't done a crazy amount of sneaker reviews. So it was bound to get into the 70s eventually, but these are really great shoes. No heel slippage. They're just a solid performer. They don't do anything like extraordinarily well. I would say that the traction is a little bit of a disappointment, but overall, if you're a big fan of Damian Lillard and you're a big fan of the way that these look, I think you might as well go for it. They're a great hoop shoe, and there's really nothing wrong with them. Would I say go with the Donna Shoe 6 or the AE ones instead? Yeah, probably. I think that those are better performers, but it really all comes down to your own personal preference. Like if you like Dame as a player more than the other two, go with the Dame 9s. You're gonna really end up enjoying them, I feel like, minus the wiping of the dust every now and then, but that is not a big deal. And then one other thing I wanted to talk about is the court feel in these, because I didn't touch on that earlier. The court feel is okay. All the Adidas shoes don't really feature the best court feel, mostly because Adidas likes to put a pretty decent chunk of cushion under your foot with most of their shoes. And so I'd say the court feel is like mediocre on these. If that's something you really value in a shoe, these might not be the best because I think these lean into the cushion more. So yeah, I think that just about wraps up my thoughts on the Dame 9s. A really solid shoe overall. And be sure to tell your friends so we can hit 10,000 subscribers quicker. If you have a pair of sneakers that you're dying to see reviewed by me, be sure to leave those down in the comments and I will try my best to get to it as soon as possible. But I really appreciate your all's support. YouTube and doing YouTube after graduating college has been like such a huge boost to me. You guys have no idea. And the fact that there's people out there watching my videos means a ton. So thank you for being here, and I'll catch you guys very soon because I actually have another video already done and it's gonna be coming out next week. So be sure to stay tuned, and I'll be seeing you all very, very soon. See you later.